Things fall apart. This is the reference summary for 102 to 125. Alright, starts off with violent change of in the middle of the night. Sleep, everything's all good, and all of a sudden the pounding of the drums and the gongs and the great drama as they build up, and they start talking about everybody wake up, and once everybody's awake, do you do, they start to narrow it down a little bit by a little bit, and they eventually get it down to, it was down to Okonkwo's town. Owen is the name of my son. Down to Okonkwo's town, down to his village, and people are still going to be concerned because everybody has married outside of their village and to other people, and they're not marrying relatives, but everybody is spread out. They constantly spread out and move around, so you've got people in other villages that you know. So you hear about this and you wonder who's died. And then eventually they name the person, and when they finally name the person, Okonkwo washes over him. The last time he spoke to this man, Izeudo, was when Izeudo told him, "Don't you kill Ikimefuna. That boy calls you father, so don't do it." And Okonkwo did it anyway because he didn't want to be thought of as weak. So Izeudo dies. He was a great man in the clan of high Ozo title. And of course, when something massive like this would show up, then the Igwugwu would choose to show up. They don't have to. But this shows what level of person has died. Very high level person in the clan. Uh, Warriors greet each other with the clashing of machetes. This is not a time for people to run around and just, drink and be happy, or to be sad and cry. They're violent, and there's a violent celebration, but there's definitely a lot of violence going on throughout the way it's described. They run around killing anything randomly. If chickens are wandering around, or if there's trees, shrubs, saplings, they just slash down anything they see because a great man has died, and they've got that violent feeling among them. They all fire guns routinely throughout the evening at a constant time. Okonkwo, during one of the most important parts of the ceremony, he gets excited and he fires his gun. We know that Okonkwo is not the best shot, and he's not the biggest person with a gun. Not well known, and you can basically deduce from this that he is not somebody who keeps it very well. It's not well kept. Anyway, regardless of what happens, whether it is from rust, dust, or just accident, it blows up, and a sliver of metal from the explosion kills the son of Izeudo, which is a shock because remember, last time Okonkwo talked to him, he said, "Do not kill the boy calls you father." And now here he is at that man's funeral, and he fires off a salute, and his gun explodes. A sliver of metal kills that dead man's son. And it is widely understood that it is a complete freak accident. No one could have expected it to happen, and no one will blame Okonkwo, and it will not matter. So then we go into Okonkwo's flight. Okonkwo has to leave immediately. The following morning, his family compound will be decimated, and anything left back, if you can't travel with it, you can't drag it along with you, because it's impossible to figure out, let's say, how to get a bunch of chickens into cages or whatever at this point. Then if you leave them behind, they're going to be slaughtered. They're not going to be used for anything. They're just going to be killed. It's a ceremony. It's a cleansing of the land after he has committed this great evil of killing a fellow clansman. That's what they call themselves, a kinsman. Somebody who's in your clan, or somebody who you know that's from your village. Okonkwo has to leave immediately, so the following morning everything will be destroyed. He will be allowed to transfer his yams to his friend Obiorika in the night. Whatever animals he cannot bring with him that are left behind will be destroyed, killed. He will go to his motherland, and they call it his motherland because his mother is buried there. His mother lived with his father until it was time for her to be buried. When she died, then she went back to her mother's land. So moms go back to the motherland, and he will go to his motherland. His mother is buried there. Women join men in their homelands in this culture, and women return to the land of their mothers when they die. Men return there when there is a tragedy to ask protection from their mother kin. Anybody who's related to mom, who is now obviously dead if you're back there, but there will be a brothers and sisters and other people that you can call upon for help if you need it. So then we get into the Isa Ifi ceremony. This is the last ceremony of marriage that we're going to see. There may have been others that we did not see, but on this particular one, there's a small sacrifice of a chicken. There's a questioning. How many people have you slept with since my brother paid the bride price for you, or at some when's the last time that you were with anybody else? And she says none. So don't lie. He says no, none, and that's it. That's the end of the ceremony. But they do get together to have a big party and to enjoy each other's company, the families and everything else. After the ceremony, Okonkwo was invited to be there. Uchendu gives a little period of advice. He gives a speech, and he tells Okonkwo, there are times in this life when you must thrive, if you can, because everything's going your way, you should. And then there are times in this life when you have to survive. And he mentions his own life, and it was horrendous. I mean, he had 22 children that he had brought into the world that had died before he did, because he's still alive. And he said he had put 22 children into the ground, and one of his wives just constantly had twins, and she was constantly burying babies. And there's so much sadness, and you just have to keep going, and you thrive when you can, and when you can't, you survive. But you don't let any other thoughts get into your mind, because he saw sadness getting into Okonkwo's face, because Okonkwo was a very mighty, powerful man, and he had lived the way he lived, and he did what he did in order to become powerful. He wanted to be one of the most powerful people in his culture, and he felt this was the way to do it, and he thought that he was really close to doing it. And now this accident, he's going to lose everything, and he's going to be kicked out for 7 years. And by the time he returns, there's going to be other people that are going to be more important. So he's wondering if this cost him everything, and he's very depressed, and that's why Uchendu is giving him this advice. Survive when you have to, thrive when you can, but don't just be miserable just because you're not thriving. Survive. That's part of it too. Obiorika visits at this time a little bit later, and he tells the story that Abeme, the village of Abeme, is gone. And there was a white missionary who visited, and they talked to their oracle, and the oracle said that this is going to bring destruction on the clan. So they killed the white missionary, and they tied his iron horse, which is a bicycle, to the tree. 3 white men returned a long time later with other natives who had guided them there, looked at the bicycle, and then went away. Didn't say a word. And then when everybody was at market, a absolute modern day ambush was planned. We have no idea what level of guns were brought in. This could be the revolvers, black powder revolvers. This is the time when they're getting into black powder cartridge guns, where they literally put black powder inside of a case. And now we're getting into like case guns that are like semi-automatic, like a lever gun. Bang, clink, clink, bang, clink, clink, bang, like that. And that kind of stuff really, I mean, they brought out a bunch of people with a lot of modern weapons, and they set up just a modern day massacre. And one thing that should be noted is when there's a war between villages, and with these people, emissaries of war are sent. People come to talk, and they say this is what's going to happen if you don't, and it's understood that they are either at war or they're not. This was just a really brutal thing to do. it did not play by the rules, so to speak. And they were not ready for it, and they were just completely massacred. Um, so he gives Okonkwo his yam money after the story is over, and he shared out the rest of the yams. So the yams will be split among others, and then they will earn money, and they'll get paid back. So your money that I didn't give you back is making money, and in the future will give you more money when you need it. So he's really taken care of his friend. Here's some of your money that I saved from your house, and the rest of it I invested so that when you return, you'll have a lot more waiting for you. And don't ask me for anything, because if you do, I'll just tell you to kill yourself. I mean, these people, it's amazing, the level of care that they can give each other because of the way that they live, that they can just do something like that and totally take care of one another to that level. Anyway, 2 years later, Obirika revisits Okonkwo, and this is not under such good circumstances. He has found out that Nwoyi, Okonkwo's son, has joined the missionaries. This is kind of told in like a jump forward, fall back, flashback type of discussion. When they first arrived, they brought Christianity and they told everybody that all your gods are silly and none of that means anything and that's all nonsense. And we only have the true one and you were all wrong. And they kept pushing this, and nobody really wanted to argue with them too much, and they said they wanted to stay. They wanted a place to stay eventually, and they wanted to stay with them for a while and teach them stuff. And they weren't used to saying no. I mean, if people want to believe what they want to believe, that's their business. But, if they might end up getting horrible bad luck or one of the gods might punish them or something. So they're like, okay, yeah, whatever. If that's what you want to believe and that's what you want to do. They gave them a piece of the evil forest to go live in. And it said, that's it for them. They want a chunk of evil forest, they can have it. So they built an evil forest, and nothing happened. And it was understood that something would happen in a certain amount of time, surely, by their cultures, by their understanding. Certainly in a certain amount of time, nothing happened. And when nothing happened, a massive amount of respect was transferred over to the missionaries, because they said, there's no way that they should have been cursed, they should have died, something should have happened by now. They must have immense power. And then when they started to get a lot of respect. Nwoyi joined after many others had joined, it should be noted. He was not the first or one of the very first. There was probably a dozen or more, but he got the idea that other people have done it. I can do it too. This appeals to me. I like this idea where you don't have to be the most violent and terrifying and horrible person, and you can sing and you can learn and read and write and all these other new things and become powerful other ways. My dad doesn't necessarily have the only way. I'm going to try and follow this way. And it should be noted that when Woicha chooses to go to the missionaries, what has happened to Okonkwo? He's lost all of his power. He went and devoted his whole life to being the way that he thought he should be in his culture, and then bad luck befell him, and now he's been kicked out and he's lost everything. And then he's abusive to the kid, and the kid is like, well, why should I hang out with you and try to learn from you and try to be like you? What did it end up getting you? So he goes and he tries out the other direction, and it's going to go a lot better. And when we look back to Uchendu's advice of thrive versus survive, there's also a little bit of adapt in Uchendu's advice there. Adapt to what there is going on. And Nwoyi seems to be like he's adapting a little bit, and Okonkwo seems like he's being a little bit stubborn a little bit. But there's other sides to it, and we would talk about other things where people are, if we get a bunch of people showing up and they're gonna colonize an area, and they're gonna say, hey, everybody, I want you to turn towards the rubber tree industry, and I want you all to milk the sap from the rubber tree plants and deliver it to me, and that's going to become the new economy. The people might forget all of their natural ways and turn over to just harvesting rubber, and they don't teach their children all the natural ways to live off the land. And then if the rubber trees get sick, die, if there's a drought, if people don't need the rubber anymore, there's a better source of it or something like that, suddenly those people don't have any way of keeping themselves alive because they have signed over 100% towards this one style of economy where they they harvest rubber, they forgot all the stuff they need in order to live off the land. So it's a morally slippery thing to do to colonize people. And when people were colonizing and and meeting other people like during this era, they thought they were doing all good, but it did bring some humongous dependence and brought some major issues sometimes when economies changed. So something all to note. Anyway, that's it for our 25 things fall apart um, reference summary. Be looking for my next one, which is the things fall apart guided tour. Thank you.